Welcome to this section where we're going to be learning about the drawing fundamentals. Now, knowing how to draw is incredibly important to digital painting because it's really the building blocks of all art form. So if you don't have a good base in drawing, your paintings, whatever else it is that you're trying to create, your ideas, your concept sketches, they're not going to look very good if you don't understand these fundamentals and understand them well. So in this course, we're going to be going over them in digital form. So I have a pyramid right here, and I call this the drawing pyramid, and it basically breaks up all the fundamentals into simple groups that show you the importance. So just like a pyramid, the bottom is the biggest, and it's the most important part. It's the base of the pyramid, or you can think of it as the foundation of a house. And if you don't have everything built up correctly in order, your house is just going to fall over. Your pyramid is just going to fall over. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing in our pyramid is going to be line. So line is at the very bottom. You really want to understand line and the importance of it, because basically all art and drawing is made up of lines, whether they're visual and you can actually see them, or they're invisible and they're just kind of in your mind or created with different colors and different values. There's still line there. So you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of line. Next is shape. So shape is just anything from circles, squares, and it's just basically when you look at an object, it can be broken up into very simple shapes. Now, if you're feeling a little bit confused, don't worry too much because we're going to be going over all of this and learning about it throughout this section. Next is form. So once we understand shape, it's time for form. And form consists of multiple things. Part of it is just the lines that create a three-dimensional looking form by using cross-contouring lines and construction lines, as well as highlights and shadows. So understanding your lighting is another important part of form. Next is going to be things like perspective and space. Now, this is just where you can draw things like a building or a car or even people in perspective. And it gets into a lot of pretty complicated stuff, but we're going to have a whole section that covers perspective. Next is going to be detail. So detail is going to consist of things like textures or patterns on animals or freckles or anything that's very small and minute and doesn't really have to do with the overall structure and design of your drawing. So as you can imagine, your line is going to basically be the first step in your drawing. Then you're going to focus on your shape, which these kind of actually get combined together. Next, you're going to focus on your form. So you're going to focus on the three-dimensionalness of it. And you're also going to focus on things such as lighting, highlights, and shadows. And then you can start thinking about perspective, and then you can add detail in the end. Now, it's not that you can't do any of these out of order. It's just important that you understand the importance of these. So the things on the bottom hold a lot more importance and weight than the things at the top. If these are wrong, this doesn't matter. But if this looks really good and this is wrong, your drawing's going to look bad anyway. So you want to make sure that you really understand, especially these bottom three: line, shape, and form.
So an analogy I like to use to kind of visualize why it's so important to start the fundamentals is if you have your painting and you're kind of speeding through the line part and the shape and the form and stuff and just getting to the detail in the end, well, you might have a really sort of on the surface pretty painting, but it's going to fall apart if the structure underneath isn't done well. Sort of like if you're building a house. If you start building a house by starting with the roof and the shingles and the paint, but everything underneath is garbage, it's not going to work very well as a house. You need to start with solid lumber, a good foundation. If you started with toothpicks for lumber and sand for a foundation, but you have the best paint in the world and the highest quality roof in the world, it's not going to matter. The house is going to fall apart. It's not going to be something you could live in, and it's going to look terrible, even though the cosmetics on the outside might be really nice. It's the same way with your drawing. So start with the fundamentals. Really take your time to make sure that everything's fleshed out and you have a solid structure. Then when you put those nice things on top, you can really make it shine. And the great thing about detail is that you can keep working more and more and more with that and make it look nicer, nicer, nicer. But if you rush through the fundamentals and get to the detail, it gets way harder to go back and work on things like line and shape once you've already started working on the detail. So remember, it might be exciting to do the fun parts like shiny little highlights and texture and stuff like that, but the longer you can stick in the basic fundamental area and really get that right, the better your painting will look overall in the end.
Thanks for watching this lecture, and we'll see you in the next one.